What a critical moment in American history. The question was asked, where do we go from here? And we have landed. You are listening to the Jamal Bryant Podcast, Let's Be Clear. And I am so delighted that we have one of the most brilliant minds of this nation, not the most brilliant black mind, one of the most brilliant minds of this nation. I'm honored, I'm humbled, I'm grateful to be breathing the same oxygen as Dr. Cornel West. Would you please welcome him?
Oh, thank you so very.
Come on, make him feel welcome.
Oh, that's so very kind. Oh, how beautiful. How beautiful.
Thank you. Dr. West, I want to jump right in. I am just coming back from sharing at the State of the Union just a few days ago. And I walked out dizzied because I got back to the hotel and the pundit said something I had never heard before. He said, this is the largest number of uncommitted voters in American history right after Super Tuesday. There is a growing groundswell of people who are dissatisfied with both parties and are looking for a viable option. And here you come out of the fog in the mist, out of the dugout. Who knows, but you were born for such a time as this. I am old enough to remember Ross Perot running for president. And at the NAACP convention, he said, "You people." And that was the end of the race.
That's true. That's so true.
That was the end of the race.
I want to start by acknowledging that I'm in historic new birth. No, indeed. Now, let's just be honest about this. I'm in historic new birth. And my dear brother, Reverend Dr. Jamal Harrison Bryant, is part of a family of spiritual nobility and theological royalty. And I want the world to know that.
Thank you, sir.
But I say that in all seriousness, that my sanity, my dignity, my sense of calling is so deeply tied to the powerful preaching of Reverend John Bryant.
Oh, thank you for that.
And his father is still strong and going. And my dear sister, Reverend Cecilia Bryant, as well. And remember, you were born in 1971. I remember the announcement.
Wow.
What is it, May 21?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Wow. Wow.
I remember the announcement, brother. We was praying for you.
Thank you.
And look at him now. Look at him now. That's what we're talking about. And one other quick story before I answer this, because this is all about courage and the relation to Christian faith. But I recall when Tavis and I came together and asked for 15 black leaders and 15 black preachers to come together for the Million Man March.
Yes.
And we had 15 on the phone. And that night, all of them said they were going to be there. And in the morning, right in front of the McDonald's shop, Tavis and I, and then here come Reverend Jamal Bryant. He was in his 20s. And it was the three of us who had that meeting. You remember that meeting?
Oh, yeah. They didn't show up.
We would look around for the other brothers and sisters. We said, what happened here?
Yeah.
Good God. And we still love them. They just got cowardly, but we love them. But this brother showed up, and it took a lot of courage for you to show up. And I have never forgotten that. That's 30 years ago.
Wow.
I want to make it very, very clear that this campaign ain't nothing but a moment in a movement of a great people who have been dishing out love warriors in the face of hatred and freedom fighters in the face of terror and wounded healers in the face of trauma for 400 years. And so what is happening now is that same tradition is spilling over into electoral politics. And so many of our politicians are wrestling with legalized bribery and normalized corruption. They don't want to tell the truth. They don't have enough backbone. They're too well-adjusted to injustice and well-adapted to indifference and tied to their success and careers. And we come from a people not just of worldly success. We come from a people of moral and spiritual greatness. Moral and spiritual greatness. And it has everything to do with the blood at the bottom of that cross. And too many of our churches allow that blood to become Kool-Aid. So you don't get transformed and your world doesn't get turned upside down. So you're in the world but not of it, and you're willing to be nonconformist to the world and transformed by a gift that's been given to you. So when you think about this campaign, don't think of an ordinary political campaign. No. Not at all. I come out of Irene and Clifton West. I come out of Shiloh Baptist Church. I come out of the legacy of Black Panther Party that says, I want to be a free man, and a free man is what? A willingness to tell the truth, and condition of truth is to allow suffering to be heard. And so we're living in a moment of such spiritual decay and moral decadence in the country. The wealth inequality is out of control. Organized greed is on steroids. Institutionalized hatred is escalating every day. Fascism is proceeding with the gangster Trump. And I say that out of love. I love everybody, but I know a gangster when I see a gangster. When we're free enough to say what's on our mind, we got enough love to cut against the grain, and most importantly, we're willing to be humble enough to learn from one another. The history of America, in many ways, is the history of Black people at our best, the Black freedom movement being the leaven in the American loaf. If Black people had created a Black version of the Ku Klux Klan, there wouldn't be an America.
Wow.
White brothers and sisters, see Black people, you ought to just give us a standing ovation. Because you wouldn't have democracy that's left if it wasn't for Black folk choosing truth, justice, and love rather than revenge and hatred. You terrorize us, we terrorize you back. You hate us, we hate you back. No, we came up with something grander. And those of us who've been washed by that blood at the bottom of that cross, it ain't no joke. We are tied to a relationship with a Palestinian Jew named Jesus that tells us that, yes, we can follow Jesus into that temple and run out the money changers, not because we hate the rich, it's because we hate greed and we love people. We love the least of these. We love poor people. We love working people. That's where we come from. And that tradition needs to be heard at this moment because the whole planet has the blues. We're about to lose the whole planet. The American democracy has the blues. We've had the blues for 400 years in America. So you either learn something from a blues people or you lose everything. So I'm just a little small wave in an ocean. That's all I am. So when I speak, I don't want folks to hear just Cornel West. No, I want them to hear Fannie Lou Hamer in me. I want them to hear Martin King in me. I want them to hear John Bryant in me. I want them to hear Reverend C.L. West, my grandfather, in me. I want them to hear some Curtis Mayfield in me. And I'm not saying that just because of our skin pigmentation, because we got a whole history of Black cowards and Black gangsters and Black thugs. It ain't a question of what color your skin is, the choices that you make. But white supremacy means that the color of your skin means that you're being degraded and demeaned and exploited and talked about and lied on. But it's the choices that we make. And so at this particular moment when it looks as if the American empire is just about to, if not collapse, about to explode. So you got Trump on the one hand leading the country toward Civil War II. And then here comes Biden. You can't say a mumbling word about genocide. Can't say a mumbling word about ethnic cleansing. 14,000 children killed in 3.5 months. Well, I learned in Shiloh Baptist Church and Vacation Bible School, Jesus loves the little children, all the children of the world, red and yellow, black or white.
But looking at what just happened in Michigan, why do you think so many Americans are disillusioned with the two-party system?
So the answer to your question, my dear brother, the answer to the question is, how does God use each and every one of us at this particular moment in which it looks as if America provides a choice between a neo-fascist Pied Piper and a milquetoast neoliberal Democrat who's leading the war toward World War III. Civil War II, World War III reminds me of Henry Highland Garnett when he spoke in the 1840s. And he only had one leg, y'all remember. So he's standing up there with his crutch, probably with a little gangster lean. And he said, black people, let us never, ever confuse the situation of black people with that of the Israelites of the Old Testament. For us, Pharaoh is on both sides of the bloody Red Seas. And so right now, the whole country, 75% now almost say, they don't want any candidate. Well, who you gonna choose? Well, we'll stay home. Well, that's not gonna help. You still want to participate. Do you think maybe you ought to consider truth, justice, and love? You think that ought to have something to do with the situation? And then here comes the black tradition. And if there was some other folk with the black tradition, that's fine with me. But I decided I'm going to be an extension of that tradition in politics. Because you know I haven't run for any office at all.
Right.
I used to say you'd see me in the crack house before you see me in the White House. I've said that on many occasions.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because the crack house, at least the folk are addicted, but they're wrestling with something real. But the White House has been a site of so much corruption, so many lies, so much mendacity, so much white supremacy. And people tell me now, well, when you win, I said, I don't know what the Lord has in store. I'm trying to bear witness and be a witness. I just know I'm not in control of things. I'm here to bear witness and tell truths and pursue justice that focus on poor and working people here and around the world. That's a calling. That's not a career. That's a vocation. That's not a profession. You see? But for all we know, Biden, he tried to be energetic the other day, but he still might run out of gas. Trump may be on the way to jail. They got to move to the B team. No labels now going to run a candidate. We don't know what's happening. We just have to make sure that there is some witness being born that's connected to the plight of poor people and black people here and around the world in the shaping of the dialogue, shaping of the discourse, shaping of the conversation. And there's something immeasurable and spiritual about this, and that is we've got to let our precious young people know that there's some older brothers and sisters who not only believe in them and their possibility, but attempt to exemplify whatever forms of integrity, honesty, decency, generosity at this grim moment. That is not going to be a question simply of having spokespersons who don't want to tell the truth about Gaza. Can you imagine genocide taking place and politicians can't even raise a mumbling word? What is going on? We were just there at the UN together.
Yes, sir.
With the black ministers,
Yeah.
led by the black ministers, Brother Stephen Green and the others doing a magnificent job, right?
Yeah.
But how could that be? Fannie Lou Hamer, Stokely Carmichael, Martin King, Malcolm X, they talking about Vietnam in 1965, 6, and 7. Why? Because the Vietnamese baby got the same value as the Palestinian baby, got the same value as the black baby, got the same value as the white baby. Oh, really? If you really believe that, then you're not going to come up with some kind of creation of a port that's going to take 2 months and another 15,000 children are going to be killed because you don't want to put pressure on the Israeli leadership that's still murdering folk every day. You say, oh, Brother West, you sound anti-Semitic. No, not at all. No, not at all. I don't have a hatred of my Jewish brothers and sisters. In fact, I see so many Jewish brothers and sisters saying the same thing I'm saying, and if not now, same thing I'm saying in Jewish Voices for Peace. Don't try to scare me. I'm not an intimidated black man. Not at all. If I love anybody, I love them because God told me to love them. I don't ask for anybody's permission as to who I love. If I love Palestinians, I don't ask for Jewish authorities as to whether I can love them. Well, I come out of Shiloh Baptist Church. I come out of the legacy of Black Panther Party that says I want to be a free man, and a free man is what? A willingness to tell the truth, and condition of truth is to allow suffering to be heard. And so we're living in a moment of such spiritual decay and moral decadence in the country. The wealth inequality is out of control. Organized greed is on steroids. Institutionalized hatred is escalating every day. Fascism is proceeding with the gangster Trump. And I say that out of love. I love everybody, but I know a gangster when I see a gangster. It's about our brothers and sisters in Africa. It's about our brothers and sisters in Asia. It's about our brothers and sisters in the Caribbean. It's about our brothers and sisters in Latin America. There's a global South out there. We got to no longer just be so Amerocentric that we're concerned solely about folk inside of this territory. America has 800 military units around the world, special operations in 130 countries. So what America does affects people in every corner of the globe. That's what it is to be an empire. And so now when they see, let's see what's going on in the presidential campaign. In Chicago and Detroit, yes. ATL, A-Town, yes. But also around the world. Why is that important? Because when black people were fighting against slavery, Ida B. Wells and Frederick Douglass went to other parts of the world. When Ida B. Wells helped break the back of Jim Crow and American terrorism, the whole world took notice, and we know that when Nina Simone,
significant African American for aspirations to the highest office, I want to extract the center two and trace your genealogy to the first one, Shirley Chisholm.
Yeah.
I want you to see, where do you feel you build on Shirley Chisholm's legacy?
Yeah, you remember one of the mottos of our dear sister out of Brooklyn, our Caribbean sister. Oh, what a brilliant, what a magnificent force for good she was, and her spirit still is. She said, I'm unbossed and I'm unbought. Just let that marinate for a second. How many politicians these days are unbossed and unbought? That meant she was a free black woman. And she wanted to be as free as Sarah Vaughan or Aretha Franklin in politics.
You really became a cornerstone in the community as an asterisk, not as an entertainer or a sports figure, but as a thinker. And what we are seeing is an assault on intellect. With the banning of books, with the marginalization of free thought. And I wanted to know, if you became president, what would you do with the Department of Education?
Oh, yeah. Boy, I tell you. Indeed, indeed. Well, for me, you have to begin with the background conditions. You see that, I have an abolition of poverty policy. So you can't really talk about education unless the children have food in their stomachs. And unless their communities are safe so they can walk the streets without fear. And unless their families and the structures in the community are solid enough so they can pass on the love. What you and I receive. We receive so much love, it would take 5 lifetimes for us to think about going to the crack house.
Wow.
Why? Because every time we make a move, we think of grandmama. We make another move, we think of mama. We make another move, we think of dad. And we ain't even got to the cousins yet. You see? But when you grow up and you don't receive enough love and attention and care and focus and being targeted, you are more rootless and deracinated, and you get caught up with the dominant forces of the society, which are market, spectacle, money, status, and violence. America is one of the most violent countries in the history of the modern world. It solves conflict by military means, and our young people pick that up. They got more police in the high school than they do counselors or nurses. My God. So when you think about education, we got to think of the background conditions to make sure that they're in place. And then, and here I think it's really much easier than a lot of the folk talk about education, because you and I have been blessed to go to very elite institutions. He's a Morehouse brother, Duke, and so on, right?
Yes, sir.
What is distinctive about those schools? Well, most of those schools have students who themselves go to schools that are already high quality. When I first got to Harvard, and I'm coming out of chocolate side of Sacramento public school, and they telling me, well, in my senior classes, we had 13 students, we had 2 teachers, and the teachers told us we were brilliant every day, whether we were or not. We're going to have small classes for the precious black folk. When I walked in and saw the beautiful face of this precious black girl, to catapult, summer camp, and it just hit me. I said, oh, new birth is on it. You got to focus. Love the young folk. That's what happened to us. We were loved. Whether we deserved it or not, I knew I was a gangster when I was 7, but Aunt Dick and Hinton keep loving me anyway. You might have some potential, little Negro. I said, I don't know about that, but I'm inseparable from his love. And his love falls far short of mom and dad. And I'll never be one half the human being they are. No matter how much visibility I get, forget about what the world got to say. I know where the real source comes from.
Yeah.
Reminds me of the Grammys, where Sam Cooke and Curtis Mayfield and Sly Stone never won a Grammy, but Milli Vanilli won 2, or an educational system and so on. But let us be very clear. All this talk about the banning of books and so forth and so on, we know how barbaric that is, and we got to be against all forms of censorship. But let us never assume that America has ever told the full truth about the black situation in America. They ain't never told the truth. The country's predicated on the efficacy of lies. And anybody who's fundamentally told the truth about America when it comes to suffering of indigenous people and poor people and working people, and especially black folk, because we've been the most chronically hated, you see, that you got to be willing to pay a cost and take some hits. That's where the courage comes in. So yes, we got to fight against the book banning and so forth, but let's not think that we could pass all the laws in the world that schools would teach black history in the hearts and minds and souls of young black people, and seeing it in examples, in exemplars of people they can touch, people they can hug, people they can laugh with. That's the truth.
Yeah.
You see what I mean?
Yes.
And that's why when you ask jazz musicians, well, what do you think about being voted so-and-so a Downweek magazine? It don't mean that much to me other than getting the job. I want to know what the spirit of Charlie Parker thinks about my playing. I want to think, what does Mahalia think?
Yeah.
What does Coltrane think? It ain't the mainstream of all these different critics trying to keep their careers together. One of the reasons why we have such a vicious attack on intellect, because intellect in America is associated with smartness. And I've never been impressed by smartness, because my grandmother went to 2nd grade, and she was wise, very wise. I tell my students at Harvard, Yale, Princeton, let the phones be smart, you be wise and courageous and compassionate. Smartness ain't nothing but a form of cleverness that might help you make your move in terms of your brand. And young folk come up to me all the time, Brother West, I'm working on my brand. I see you got your brand. I said, no, my folk came here branded on slave ships. And those bones are still at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean. And they were taking to slave auctions and slave plantations with a brand. No, we have a cause, not a brand. Never confuse a market brand with a moral cause.
One of the greatest modern assaults of the advancement of the civil rights movement is the attack on DEI, diversity,
Yes.
equity, and inclusion.
Absolutely.
And I want to really go to the top, because we saw a modern lynching at Harvard University with our sister, who was the first black female president, President Gay. And I wanted you to really expound on what you see and feel and sense on this erasure of DEI is as if everything is already equitable.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. One is that, I was never really comfortable with diversity, equity, and inclusion. That's not my language. My language is, I want to know the truth. I want justice. That's why I'm for reparations. I want truth and justice, and I want to keep the love in it. And I was there to say, no, that's too deodorized. We're going to keep this funky now. No, and there's always truth in the funk. I mean, Bootsy and George Clinton and James Brown, they constitute very much who we are.
Yes.
You see, and that's not just a song. The funk is always suspicious of deodorized discourses, of sanitized, sterilized discourses. If you're going to keep it funky, you keep it real. And Ashford and Simpson say, ain't nothing like the
real
thing. The real thing. That's why we love the folk like Malcolm and the other. You don't have to be a Muslim to love that brother. He was for real. Even when he was wrong, he said white folk are devils. You know they're not devils. What, they got devilish behavior? You got a point, my brother. He's keeping it real. Absolutely. And so DEI, I thought from the very beginning, was already diluted. So you can't fight for something that's diluted. Pat Boone sings a version of Curtis Mayfield. I'm not going to the club. I want to hear Curtis. He'll make $50 million and Curtis will make $500,000. That's America. Diluting the funk. You see? Well, from the very beginning, DEI was diluted, but we had to support it. It was the best we had. You see? But truth and justice dropped out. Truth and justice dropped out. You see? And then in the case of Harvard, now this is a very fascinating case because you all know I had my troubles with Harvard twice, with Harvard the president. And it was intense, and I just had to let them know that I'm a child of Irene and Clifton. So, you come at me, I'm a Christian, but I'm not a pacifist.